We're back. It's the ML Sports Platter brought to you by CH Insurance. They are in your corner. Log on to chinsurance.cc and ask today about the Boost program. I brought him in, one of the best broadcasters of all time, in my opinion, a friend of mine as well, on the big screen from CBS Sports, Ian Eagle. So great to have you, man. How are you?
We're back, baby. Mike, we are back into the NFL swing of things. Week 1 complete. And it's just great to have football back. There is something about filling that void. You wait for it, the anticipation is there, and then week 1 hits, and then you're right back into it. The muscle memory of what you do during the week, how you get ready, not even just from a broadcaster standpoint, from a fan standpoint. It's a fun time of year, and there's always a lot of overreactions, as we know, after week 1. That never changes.
Yeah, no doubt. You're so right. I mean, even little old me, I mean, it got right into it, and I'm a big Bills guy, and all of a sudden I'm like double reading, double podcast, double booking of guests, double like, oh, I know what I'm doing on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, boom. And then the college scene, I live close to the Dome, as you know, so it's just like wham, and it just hits you. I want to start with the game that you had this past weekend. The Patriots upset the Bengals, and yes, week one is week one. But this is a long-term thing for the Bengals for me. This game doesn't matter. What matters to me is Joe Burrow. He's the face of the team, the franchise. He's one of the 3 best quarterbacks in the league when he's healthy. He still doesn't look right to me. He was 3 to 4 days in a row, couldn't do it during practice time. There's still issues with the health. I'm talking long-term now. Should we be worried about Joe Burrow being an elite quarterback for the distance?
I completely understand why this would be a storyline and a narrative. The numbers back you up. September has been rough for the Cincinnati Bengals. The first 2 weeks in particular has been really poor, subpar. 1-10 now in the first 2 weeks under Zach Taylor. That's no longer just happenstance. That's a real thing. This team can't seem to get out of the gate with any form of consistency. And they dig themselves out of the hole more often than not with Joe Burrow in there. Last year, season ended to injury with the wrist. And I don't know if we realized how much of the rehab he had to go through to get to week 1. Everyone just assumed he's healthy in training camp and he's ready to go. When we sat down with him on Friday, he did detail that it's been arduous. And he's had to work extra hard with that right wrist, his throwing hand. So whether or not that was the issue, I think there are other things you can point towards, including the Jamar Chase contract and the T. Higgins contract before that. Higgins ends up getting franchised. He's making a boatload of money this year, but didn't get the long-term deal that he was looking for. And Jamar Chase, it was one of those situations where he looked us in the eye on Friday. He said all the right things. I think he believed it was going to get done. Something broke down. I think they're very close, but to say that it wasn't a distraction would be an unfair statement. I think there was a carryover. Zach Taylor has done everything that he can to put all of that to the side, get locked in on who they are, creating their identity. They're right back to square one after week 1 like they've been the last 5 years.
You've had a million games where you've called the Buffalo Bills.
Yep.
My guy's Josh Allen, man. I love this guy. I love the way he plays football. I did a video or 2 this past week where I said, Josh Allen overrated. He is not. When
Agreed.
you watch Josh Allen play football, how do you describe it? How do you see it? How do you describe it?
It's funny because now we're in a new world in evaluating the NFL. It's what you see, the eye test. That's one part. I think that's what you and I grew up on.
Mm-hmm.
You go off of what you see. The second part is fantasy football and what guys do statistically and how that affects your opinion on who they are as a player. And then the third part is gambling and what a player does and how your bets may turn out based on a player's performance. And I do think it's changed the way that players are perceived. Josh Allen is an elite quarterback. Of course, we're going to point towards the postseason because that's where the next level of assessment takes place and where you fit into the pantheon. It's not only an individual sport, it's a team sport, and you'll be judged on what your team does. And the Bills, as we know, are still trying to get to that mountaintop and win a Super Bowl. In a strange way, because the Bills are not the favorite necessarily to come out of the AFC, and I'm not even sure that they're mentioned always in the second breath of this particular season. They should be, but the team's changed a bit, and I think expectations around the NFL, people move on. You're the hot commodity. You're the team that everybody jumps on to say they're the next one to break through. They want to be first with that opinion. And now the Bills have settled into a different role. I think they're still really effective. I think their talent is still first rate, and they have a quarterback that can put a team on his back and make some things happen. But the fact that Diggs isn't there, I think it took away a little bit of the sexiness from the Buffalo Bills, and some of the names that people got accustomed to over the last 5 years are no longer a part of it. And maybe that's why it's changed perception. But you're asking me individually, Josh Allen, what is he? Josh Allen is one of the premier players in the NFL.
CBS Sports, Iron Eagle, NFL, of course, play-by-play, and the voice of March Madness. I want to get to that at the end, which was an amazing year, of course, as well. It's all brought to you here by CH Insurance. They are in your corner. We know the names from the 90s. I mean, basketball, it's Ewing, it's Barkley, it's Reggie Miller, it's Peyton and Kemp and Malone, and you know where I'm going with this. All the guys who didn't win rings, Drexler, because there was a guy by the name of Michael Jordan who was 6-0 in the finals. Olajuwon got a couple. Jordan retired. Here we are in the NFL. We got a guy by the name of Patrick Mahomes. We have Allen and Burrow and Lamar and all these different guys and Dak. If the majority of them do not win a ring, and Mahomes wins, I don't know, at least 5, which I've predicted already, what guy do you think are we going to look back on and feel bad for in the sense that he was Dan Marino during that era?
Lamar Jackson has won MVPs, so the individual accolades are there. If you ask people around the NFL who's one of the most electric talents in the league, Lamar Jackson is going to get a lot of those votes. I do think Lamar gets a high level respect of current players that have to go against him and have to defend him and have to deal with what he brings, the bag of tricks. So Lamar's level of respect is still very high in the league. If he never wins a Super Bowl, it will be viewed as, man, what a great individual talent, but they just could never quite get over the hump. And the postseason storyline will be there. I think Josh is going to be in a similar situation. Josh is capable of winning an MVP award and may win one before this career of his is over. If he's blocked by Patrick Mahomes, how does it affect his legacy? How does it affect the way that he's viewed? As a player, when you're in it, you can't allow that to fester in your brain. You just can't. You have to just go about your business. But I will tell you this, when it's all said and done, if you were a top flight quarterback and now you're 5 years removed, 10 years removed, 20 years removed from your career, it still bugs you. It just does. If you don't win the Super Bowl, there is something missing. And I can tell you from personal experience, Dan Fouts is a really close friend. He was my partner for 10 years. He is among the best people that I've known, not just in this business, but in my life. That's the kind of relationship that we had. And I know enough to know that deep down, it still bugged him. It's just how it is. Dan was prolific. Dan put up numbers that had not been seen in the NFL. Their offense was historic. They had a chance to win the whole thing the year that they went down to Miami and won the overtime thriller against the Dolphins, and then went and had the opposite conditions in Cincinnati, only to see Ken Anderson and the Bengals advance to the Super Bowl to lose to Joe Montana and the 49ers, who the Chargers had beaten that year in the regular season. So they had confidence, in addition to not just the fact that they had done it one-on-one. They knew Bill Walsh. Walsh had worked for the Chargers, so they knew how he approached offense. They felt really confident if that was the matchup they were going to see. in the Super Bowl, it's still something that sticks with you. It doesn't matter what your individual accolades are, Hall of Fame. It's an itch that you can never quite scratch once your career is over.
Ian Eagle, CBS Sports. You have Jets Titans this week. An interesting one. Obviously, the Titans, man. Will Levis kind of tried to do like a Syracuse option, maybe the other way, back in the day with McPherson to Owens, but the other way, and it got picked off, and they lost to the Bears, and the Jets got rolled by the Niners on Monday Night Football. So we'll see what happens with that situation. Clearly, the Jets, obviously, storyline number one is Aaron Rodgers, but they got to figure out a way to tackle on defense and run the ball, because Rodgers, it won't matter if you have him or not, and how great he plays. But I want to get to two things and combo them here that are great in your life right now. Your son is amazing, and I know that you and I were texting about it, and I can see it in your face. I don't want to make you cry, but I mean, man, as a dad, I mean, good grief. I have a 1-year-old and a 4-year-old. I can't imagine having I see what my daughter does at a young age, and when she's spitting out the vocabulary and she's having a blast eating it, as a parent, you're like, this is amazing. So your son's crushing it. He did the Brazil game.
Yep.
And then your alma mater, by the way, just, they're 2-0 here. I know it's early, but Fran Brown, they got a signature win, beat Georgia Tech. Come on, man. Ian Eagle, you got to be happy right now. You're popping champagne every day, right?
Let's take the second part first, Mike, with Syracuse. It's funny how the weekend rolls for me. You get into the city on Friday, you meet with the home team, you go and have a group dinner Friday night. Saturday, you have a lot of downtime until you meet with the road team at their hotel. So that means doing work and grabbing lunch and watching college football,
Right.
Whether you're locked in on the game or if it's just on in the background in your hotel room. And as we know with Syracuse, it hasn't been the best of Saturdays for quite some time. So to now have a really competitive team, a fun offense, Fran Brown, who's brought a new attitude, clearly an elite recruiter, and now we're finding out what kind of coach he can be as well and how he deploys his coaches. The offense is for real. Defensively, I think they're going to clean some things up. The ACC is there for the taking. This is not a power conference. This is one of those open opportunities if you're the Syracuse Orange. So I can be a little more lead with my chest with Charles Davis and Evan Washburn and the rest of our crew that Syracuse is now relevant again, and we'll see if they can keep it going. As far as my son, Noah, Mike, you'll learn this with your kids. You just want them to be happy, to pursue things that will give them joy. And when Noah made the decision that he wanted to try his hand at broadcasting, all I could do was encourage him, be a positive influence. My wife and I were there for him from day one. And you can't, at that point, do it for them. They have to go do it. So going to Syracuse, watching him develop, listening to his stuff, giving him pointers, of course, when necessary, and then watching him evolve into a broadcaster that could take on larger responsibilities, bigger assignments, bigger stages. And with each step along the way, trust me, my wife and I have looked at one another a couple of times and said, what happened here? How did this happen? The Olympics, French Open, NFL games, Nickelodeon, big college football games.
Yeah.
All of those moments, we've had a couple of those parental vibes that you get of looking back and thinking, we were just changing this kid's diaper. Just doing it.
Yeah.
And
it's
cool. It's been pretty cool and very, very much a sense of pride for our family, Mike.
That's awesome. By the way, check out the championship banner behind me on the wall. You see that in my gallery?
Love it.
Right. So I got some cues around here, as you know. I've already held you over a couple minutes, but in the final minute or so, I mean, we've joked in the past about how people, they have messed up your name in the past. I know I've heard you like Ian Eagle is your name, but like, the Ian Eagle, Ian Eagle.
I've gotten that.
EP do it all the time. What's the craziest pronunciation of your name? Is it Eagle Eagle? Is it, hey, maybe it's Shits and Giggles? I don't know, but Ian Eagle, Ian Eagle. Where are we going here? What's the craziest one? Because when you and DP get into this, I have to pull over the car because I'm laughing so hard, man.
Yeah, I had a red eye out of Salt Lake City after a net game. This is pre 9/11, so things were a little different in travel. You could cut it really close and run to the gate and make your flight. So I rushed to Salt Lake City airport after the game. Again, before you had cell phones, you didn't have your boarding pass. You had to go to the desk, give your name, show your ID. They would print out the boarding pass, and then you would waltz your way to the gate. So I get to the desk, and it's a woman on the late shift. This is a red eye out of Salt Lake City. And I'm huffing and puffing a little bit, sweating, get out of the car, hand her my ID. She asks me what flight I'm on. I tell her. She looks at my ID. She looks at me. She looks at my ID and says, okay, so Ian, right out of the gate, not great, but fine. Agle?
Oh, wow.
I said, you want to try it again? You want to look at that last name again? She said, Iagle. She just changed where she was putting the accent.
Oh.
And then I said to her, I said, close. I said, the last name is our national bird.
It's a bird.
Yeah. And she went, oh, eagle. So Ian Eagle. I went, that's it. Let's go with that. I made my flight, by the way.
If it said Robin, it would have been totally, totally easy. All right. Well, look, this was amazing, as I knew it would be. Always, you've taken time for me through the years, and it means a lot. Ian Eagle, CBS Sports, getting ready for Jets Titans this weekend. It's all brought to you by CH Insurance in your corner. Log on to chinsurance.cc today and ask about the Boost program. You're the best, my man. Say hi to your son. I got to text him and congratulate him on everything as well. It's been a while, but you're the best, always spending time. And have a great call this weekend. Hope to run into you soon, maybe even in Western New York, Ian. Thanks so much.
Sounds good, Mike. Appreciate you. Appreciate your friendship.